there's a unique thread that I think I'm going to try and tie together nicely here. Of course, I don't have my own experiences as a dad because I'm 21. But
not yet. Yeah.
I like what you've said there of sort of keeping in touch with the Denver that you are with your friends and the Denver that you are with your partner and your version of yourself as a father. I think there's a really important lesson there in general life. I think a lot of people will lose that touch. Specifically, I mean, the only real bearing I have in terms of understanding here is work, where it's like you'll put yourself towards the version of you that is working on the craft, and you forget about the other versions of you that need to be satiated with going out for a drink or going to the gym or whatever it is. I think it's very important that people realise on sort of, I suppose I should tie this together with the similarities between optimising for performance in career and parenting, because I think there's that same level of sort of focus that can make, that tunnel vision, that can make everything else sort of fade away. I think it's very important that people are aware of the fact that you should go out and do things because you just want to. You should go out and do things because you'd like to do it. It's an enjoyable night out. That's really important.
Absolutely. I totally think it's important. And also as well is, as much as like with relationships, like with your partner and your family life, you got to work on it. You got to work. It doesn't all just happen naturally. You have to work as a team. And equally as well, like with your friends, you have to work at friendships.
Yeah. If you don't,
you've got to make an effort.
Yeah.
We all have to connect and just check in with your mates and just say like, right, let's get a date in the diary, even if it's in 3 months' time or whatever, and let's just meet up and just go out social. I mean, like, I'm quite lucky because we play quite a lot of us play football together still on a Monday night in a vets league, so that's quite nice, having that connection still. But we're always on it. The boys are always on it, and I'm quite fortunate. We've been friends for over 30 years. Nice. All my mates. Do you know what I mean? It's, and I know, like I touched on, not everyone's fortunate enough to have that. But you got to work at that. That's something we've worked on to keep it like that by checking in, making sure everyone's like organising stuff in the future. Weekends away, nights out, and stuff like that. And we don't do it to the same, go out as much as we used to. We might only meet up probably 2 or 3 times a year now, but we still do it. Yeah. We still want to do it. Yeah. And everyone's still the same. You might not see someone physically for 6 months, but the conversation's exactly the same.
Yeah, you pick up where you left off.
Mate of mine lives out in Richard Hills, lives out in Australia. And he was back over here recently. And I only managed to catch up with him for a very, very brief period for about an hour or so, but just because timings weren't working out. But we made a point, met up and had a drink. And the conversation's exactly the same. Do you know what I mean? And I haven't seen him for years. Yeah. But because they're your friends, you just fall back into the same.
It's chemistry.
It's chemistry, and and that's what friendship is, isn't it?
Christopher Hitchens has a lovely quote on this: "Of you can't make old friends." And I think that's great. I think there's really something to be said about.
I like that.
And it's nice. It's nice because there is something to be said there that the connection and the chemistry and the love essentially that you've got for someone who you've known for 30 years is so palpable and so important. And you're right, you can't. I think relationships are quite a consistently sort of tarnished thing where we sort of assume that because we have it, we'll keep it. And it's not the case. Unfortunately, if you don't put yourself out and provide some effort towards the relationship, you probably won't keep it.
No.
And I think that's not to sort of scaremonger anyone. That's the total opposite, in fact. It's to promote that if you've got a relationship that you're happy with or you've got friends that you're happy with, then be there. Be a part of that because you will keep that so long as you choose to. Yeah. And I think that's quite a consistently sort of just taken for granted, I think, is the best way to put it. I think people don't sort of realise how important those things are. And I suppose this ties in very nicely with the sort of the quest of a father is you need those spaces, particularly, I would wage, when you're growing together as fathers. You've come from an 18-year-old and you've seen each other work through that.
Yeah.
There must be something to that.
Absolutely, yeah. We see that a lot at Dad's Place. You know, we're with guys coming together and on the same path. You know, like that, and it's quite a special moment as well, really. Especially if they've known each other for a long period of time, and then they're becoming fathers together. It's quite a special thing. Yeah.
There was a statistic actually that I wanted to run by you. I'm sure I said it to you on the phone. Of 81% of freshmen, which for the English watching is about sort of 13 to 17, thought that financial prosperity was more important than family or profundity, I suppose. How does that make you feel?
Sad, I suppose, really, but not surprised because you know that your mindset of someone of that age is totally different to someone 10 years older, isn't it? So yeah, I think society, money is sort of rules the world, doesn't it? Like that, and not in a good way, you know, like that. And as you get older, you realise that's really not what's important. You know, health, family, friends, and time are what I think's what's important. You know, really, and that's the thing. Of course, you need money to be able to operate in life. You know, that is.
And I think that's where it comes from, isn't it? Is people are worried about the fact that you can't. You know, if someone says money isn't everything, then they don't have money. They don't understand. There's a quote that I like on this of having money isn't everything, but not having it is. And I think, unfortunately, it is. You know, there are some plates to spin here and to balance. And I think I do have I've got an intimate understanding of sort of forsaking relationship for the sake of career. I get it, you know, and it makes total sense. But fortunately, this is something I've sort of fell out the back end of, and I've had more of a bearing on the fact that really there are fewer points for me personally where I feel more fulfilled than spending quality time with family and holding that space.
Yeah.
And I think, of course, there are some caveats here when it comes to the acquisition of wealth, but your family won't always be there, and to a large extent, money will be. You know, that is the amount of time that you're afforded to cultivate that is certainly greater than the amount of time you're afforded to relish in your relationships.
Yeah.
And I think people I notice it particularly in the sort of self-improvement type, like industry, sort of that sort of sphere, that people don't pay a great deal of attention to the fact that actually things that are critically important. In fact, the most important, in my opinion, thing is your family. It is. We are a social creature. We're a tribal creature, and within that, family is our thing. It is what we're for.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Yeah,
and I think there's not. I'm not sure how many people sort of my age are aware of that. I think there's a glamour that you get with career that you don't necessarily see with parenting. You know, you can, a Lamborghini is a Lamborghini, and you can look at it and you can think, wow, you know, there's so much prestige, and sort of the message that is sent out of that is much more clear to I think to people my age than it is to have a healthy baby.
Yeah. No, I couldn't. Yeah, I think it's just your mindset's is in a. I mean, you know, me as a 17, 18-year-old compared to now is like night and day. Do you know what I mean? The way you see life is just so different. You know, like that. Even at 46, you know, it's just yeah. I can see it both sides really.
Yeah, and I do understand it. I mean, it's obvious. You know, it's as I say, it's so blatant. The positivity of wealth, and it's not so obvious for people around our age. And I think men as well. There's a bit of a sort of, I don't know. It's somehow not as alluring for men, sort of young men, as a career is. I don't know why that is, but it's certainly that way. How has that changed for you? Was there any point where you really sort of flipped and realised, you know, actually the thing that is important to me is my family? Is that?
probably the point of when you have kids, really.
Yeah.
You know, everything changes. Everything your priorities change. You know, 1 minute it's just you and your partner, that's your world, and then all of a sudden there's 3 of you, and yeah, like I say, it's just knowing that person now looks at you for everything.
Yeah,
it's quite a scary and lovely thing, really, because you know that they're looking at you for advice, they're looking at you for comfort. When they hurt themselves, they want protection. I think that's definitely something that as dads is a nice thing that I feel like I'm able to protect my kids. I feel like they me hugging them and stuff like that, they feel safe.
Yeah.
I like that. That's what I always felt with my dad.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like that, and still do. You know, that's a nice feeling of the safety element. I think like that. But yeah, I think that the moment as soon as you have kids, it all changes, and that comes your priority, and really, yeah.
And that element of protection there, I think, is lovely. I think that sort of feeling as though I am responsible for you can be, obviously, you know, the bearing, the reasoning of dad space is sort of confronting the discomforts of this, but you know that must be a lovely feeling.
It is, yeah. It is a lovely feeling, but also that can be quite scary.
Yeah.
You know, if you got these things, and you think all of a sudden you're looking at this child there is looking at me now for total guidance and safety, the whole lot, and that's, you know, it's all right to feel scared about that, and just come and talk about it.
I mean, but that's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is it's not an unreasonable concern.
No, not at all. No,
you've got this child here who's totally dependent on you.
Yeah.
There's quite a lot to that.
It's all right to be scared.
Yeah,
it's all right to be scared by that. Yeah. You know, and overwhelmed by it, and but you know, as in society, you know, up until, well, like say, Dad Space only been going 3.5 years before anything. I'd say before COVID, really, men and guys, you'd suck it up and get on with it. Whatever that was going on in your mind, if you're scared about something, just suck it up. You got to man up, get on with it.
Yeah.
And that was the norm. That was the norm, you know. And it's like, right, yeah, okay, that's what I've got to do then. I won't talk about it. I just need to just man up.
Yeah.
And that's what you know, I think's changed. Well, we're certainly part of that's changing for men. You know, I feel, you know, with offering spaces. I don't think, I honestly question whether if there hadn't been that period of 2 years or so where the country went into that whole situation with COVID, and then how mental health is being discussed now.
Yeah.
And I'm talking generally men and women. If I tried to open up Dad Space and there hadn't been COVID, would it have had the impact that it had, like it has now?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it would have done, but I don't know. It might not have survived. It might not have survived because that whole talking about your feelings, especially for men, maybe would still be boxed where it was before then.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. I think that sort of really brought this to a head, where one of the prevalent themes of COVID was mental health. It was that sort of the real degradation of mental fortitude, and I think you're right. I think there's certainly a world where, absent of COVID, maybe it doesn't pull through it with such flying colours, because people are still in that sort of space of sort of the quiet struggle, the grin and bear. I think what we're touching on here is sort of how masculinity is posed in society, what masculinity is. And I shall sort of fill in the blanks here first of all, that I think what we're touching on before COVID is sort of masculinity in the sense of, you can deal with it. If you can't deal with it, be quiet and deal with it, and sort of the element of emotion being totally absent there. What do you think the sort of landscape for this is now? How do you think masculinity is perceived now?
Good question. Yeah.
I'll refine. How do you perceive masculinity?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, for me, I think, from a Dad Space perspective, I think if you can show yourself and be vulnerable in a space and share how you're feeling, I think that is what I consider as masculinity now. I think that is such a powerful thing and such a strong thing to do as a man. If you can do that and share how you're feeling in those sort of spaces, that's probably how I describe masculinity. Yeah, being vulnerable.
Yeah, well, and I suppose embedded in that is opening yourself up as a result of being vulnerable is inherently strong, because you're showing it on a sort of very baseline level that I can be this way and I'm okay to be this way,
Yeah,
because
exactly.
I can deal with it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a nice reframe, I think, of if you do just sit and percolate on these feelings rather than letting them go or letting them out, I think you're sort of inadvertently being the very thing you don't want to be. And as well, I think that sort of simmers underneath the surface, where you're actually making yourself weaker because you can't hold as much, because you're under so much mental strain.
Yeah.
Because you're holding everything in.
Yeah.
That release is important, really important.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, I think, being vulnerable in a space, taking yourself, masculinity. Yeah, I mean, it's a good question, isn't it? What, in society now, how do we see ourselves as masculine? I'm trying to think of anything else.
Capable, I think.
Capable,
is one of them. I think men are under the impression that they need to be able to do everything, and to a great extent. I'm going to sort of tie a previous point in here. I think martial arts is quite an important one for this, because I think, from my own experiences, the real sticking point for me that kept me out of a martial arts gym until I went into one was that emasculating feeling of confronting the fact that you don't actually know what you're doing. And I think that's an important thing to address for people, is you're not expected to know how to do everything. And if there is something that you want to learn, you do have to sort of go over that period where you don't know what you're doing. And that's fine.
Yeah,
I think,
of course it is.
I think men have quite a difficulty in sort of accepting a lot of the time that they're not good at something. And I do think that stems sort of closely tied to this sort of feeling of needing to provide, where it's like, I need to be able to do these things. You can't do anything until you've tried it and put some time into it. You're not going to be able to do it.
No, I think you're right. Yeah,
I think people get stuck there.
Yeah. And being emotional now in society, I think, is such a great strength. Really, if you can be emotional,
if you can channel it well, it's very useful.
Yeah. And not everyone. I've certainly found since starting Dad Space that I cry at everything now, and I never used to cry. Do you know what I mean? I never used to cry about things and stuff like that, but now I don't know. Wherever it's, I just find it. I don't tend to hold it in now. I just tend to say, you know what? Let's have a cry. It's all right.
There's a reason why we've got that program. It's releasing.
It's you need to. It feels better when it's gone. And you see, it's like I see it in Dad Space when I see people's shoulders drop, and they offload stuff that's going on in their mind. That takes me back to why I started it. You go like, well, that's exactly why I started Dad Space there. Seeing someone all of a sudden just take a deep breath and just see their shoulders drop and release whatever's going on in their mind that they needed to let out. There you go. That one person feels better. Then my job's done.
How does that tie in with? Well, I suppose I should ask this first. Is Dad Space difficult to operate?
Dad Space difficult to operate.
Sort of stressful.
Yeah, it can be stressful because obviously, all eyes are on me, like that. So yeah, but certainly not stressful in the fact that I don't feel that I want to step away from it. No. Yes, it can. Yeah, it's stressful because we're operating now on a much higher level. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? I mean, we had Maidstone, and then we had Ashford, and we were operating them for about 2 years. So last year, things have massively changed for us. We now have 7 locations around the county. So in terms of it's for me stressful. I would say there's two things that for dad space that you sort of is a constant sort of worry is, will people turn up? You still worry about that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You still worry, will people, if we need guys to turn up, and will they talk? That's the two things. Do you know what I mean? Like that. So just be present. Like that. And that's probably the things that are most stressful. With that, you constantly have to be on it all the time, and just constantly advertising it like that. I mean, you can't rest on your laurels. We had 15 guys turn up to one of the Maidstone sessions, I think, in January like that, which is high numbers like that. But you can't expect it to be like that every time. And then the following month it might be 4. But this is the thing: as long as people are turning up, whether that's one person, whether that's 15 or 20, then that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Because something that I've learned about Dad Space is it's not about numbers. It's about the value. And if you've got a small group of 3 or 4 guys, those 3 or 4 guys might not be comfortable in anything bigger than that to share.
Yeah.
And that could be perfect for them. They may be like, right, actually, I feel all right with this. If you start to go to 10, 15, 20, I might not be comfortable with that. So do you know what I mean? So it's just like numbers are great. Of course they are. They're great, and they're great for social media because you're seeing all the dads there, and they're brilliant sessions. They're equally as important as the small sessions, though. So, and what we've learned to do now is with the big sessions, we split them into 2 groups to make sure that everyone gets that time to talk. Because I don't want anyone to feel, we've got a big group here. I won't hold up your time. Yeah. I'd hate that. I'd hate for anyone to feel like that. So I always want people to feel it's your time. You got the stone. You share if you want to share. Yeah. And I would never want to stop that. And I would never want to charge for dad space meetings. I always want them to be free for dads, because everyone's financial situation is different, and if you want to donate to dad space, then that's absolutely fine. But equally, there's no pressure.
And I think that's wonderful. I think there's really something to be said about offering such a useful and helpful space free of charge. Because in the most transactional of manners, the effort and the product and everything that goes into it warrants a price. But and I think to sort of not put that on the table is brilliant, because as you say, you don't know whether you will price someone out of what is critical. I think there's someone I'm wonderfully fond of called Sam Harris. He's a neuroscientist and a philosopher. He's brilliant, and he's got an app called Waking Up, and it's a meditation app, and he abides strictly with the service is potentially paid for, so you can pay for a scholarship for 6 months, but he has varying price brackets. So the top one's something like $200, and then it goes down to and it goes down. And he does say, he said there's a $0 free subscription, and he attaches to that he would never want someone to be priced out of something that he feels everyone should be able to have. And I think it's the same thing. I think it's, unfortunately, if you put a price on something, it might not even get people in the door. Even if you put £10 on something, people then have to consider something that they didn't otherwise think of.
You're putting a barrier there, aren't you?
Yeah, and when you're on the shores that are as tentative as something like mental health, any barrier is a bulwark. Yeah. It's very, when it comes to this, particularly with men, if there's any excuse not to address it, they may well not address it. Yeah. Because it's easier not to. Exactly. And I think you pulling out as many of the sort of difficulties as possible is great. I think it's really great.
No, thank you. Yeah, no, I think you're right. Yeah, the only thing, if there is any doubt in your mind and there's a financial sort of element to it attached, that's your way out of it.
Yeah.
I'm struggling. Yeah. Struggling this month. It's going to cost £10. I'll give it a miss this time. Yeah. Why didn't you go? It cost £10. I couldn't really afford it, but I'll have a look at it next month. Dad space. Oh, are you going to go to that? Is it free? Yeah. Yeah. Have you booked on it yet? No, not yet. Why not? We haven't got a reason not to, you know. That's it. So that's what it is, you know. Like that's what I want it to be, you know. It's there, and then if you wish to donate, you can. That's there as an option. You know, we're a non-for-profit organisation. We welcome donations, but there's no stipulation. You know, you don't have to do that. That's there. It's not there for that. That's not why we're here.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. And I think, talk to me about this sort of situation when it comes to you've broadened your horizons and you've got some form of sort of some backing from KCC.
I have, yeah, we have, yeah. I should actually also touch on that Dad Space is not just me. I'd like to just sort of touch on, there's another director, Michael, who's a big part of Dad Space. If it's all right, just touch on that briefly.
As you please.
And so basically that relationship come about because I needed someone to, I thought of the name. I thought I wanted to call it Dad Space.
Yeah.
And I needed someone to design a logo for me. And my wife, the lady that she cuts hair for, Natasha, her partner Michael, did design work and stuff like that for bits and pieces and logos and that. So she put me in touch with him. So we had a conversation, and he come up with Dad Space, brotherly support between fathers. Yeah. And so then he did some posters for me and bits and pieces at the beginning and stuff like that. And we just sort of started chatting, and I think the second meeting that we did, which was sort of Christmas time of 21, he goes, "Oh, I might come along. I might come along and see what it's about," like that, you know. So I said, "Yeah, come along, that's it, come along." And I don't think Michael's missed a session since.
Really?
Maybe one, maybe or something like that. And that relationship sort of like evolved from there, and he was getting more involved, doing bits for us and stuff like that. And then he said, "I can get you a banner made up." So he did this, and then he worked on a website. And it just sort of evolved like that, and he become as passionate about it as me, and it made sense for him to be on it with me as a director as well, and we grew it together as a partnership, because you know the things that he can do I can't do. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? I can be the front of it, I can be the face of Dad Space, but technical stuff like websites and design work and that's his bag. He's brilliant and all that sort of stuff. So we're very different, but we work really well, and that friendship has grown brilliantly, and I trust him totally with what Dad Space is. And going back to what you were saying there about funding, we got approached by the KCC to offer something for dads, and we put something together to expand our model across the county. Unfortunately enough, we were able to do that across with backing from the KCC and Medway, which sort of all happened around July time last year. So, like I was saying, we now operate in 7 locations, Maidstone, Ashford being the 2 sort of first ones. We then opened up Faversham in August last year, Folkestone in December last year, Medway in October last year, and Tunbridge Wells we launched in March this year. And we also have a venue in Sevenoaks that we host like family events and stuff like that throughout the year, like Easter, summer, Halloween and Christmas and stuff. So they're really good, because that's an opportunity for the dads to bring the whole family unit along as well.
Yeah. I'm sure you'll find this very pleasant to know. I was speaking to my sister about who I was having on today, and I said, "Oh, it's them from Dad Space," and she said, "Oh, Dad Space from Sevenoaks." So
there you go.
So you have it. I thought that was nice. I thought it's pleasant to see that people are aware. And I think it's lovely. There's an element there that I think sort of the relationship between you and Michael and the funding from KCC comes together as a nice sort of allegory of what Dad Space is. You know, that something as brilliant and useful and progressive for the world as Dad Space is could not happen without the support of some people. Yeah. It can't happen without being aware of the fact that there's a load that needs to be distributed here, and that's best served, and the product itself is best offered when that's distributed. And I think there's a nice sort of story there that really speaks for Dad Space as a space.
Absolutely, you know, and for me it's trust. Having people, I mean, like we've now got, you know, a nice little team now at Dad Space, because I don't host all the meetings in all the towns. So we've now got a brilliant facilitator in Faversham called Kenny, who's been running that since August for us over there. We've also got Pete, who runs Ashford, and he'll be coming up to 2 years. He's been running Ashford for me over there. Obviously myself and Michael. I've got Rob and V, who do lots of stuff behind the scenes, like creating the posters, all the sort of like payroll, like Rob does. Do you know what I mean? And I've got another facilitator, Scott, as well, who's going to be doing some walk and talks with dads and little ones. We're going to be looking at doing that as well, sort of as another addition, just to sort of bring that in.
Who decided to do that?
We all did, really. Yeah, I just thought, because I was getting messages quite a lot about from partners saying, can the dads bring the kids? And they can't in the ones that we do, because they are our circles. Obviously, you've got guys opening up about their personal. You know, it's not fair on the kids for things like that, and for the dads. Yeah. But I was like, there's no reason why we can't do a walk and talk with the little ones as well, and it's just a way of connecting dads together. Yeah. And that might be enough for some dads, just to be able to meet other dads and get out and go for a walk with a pushchair. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Just, do you know what? I just needed that, just to get out and just have a bit of dad conversation while walking like that. And it's a great tool for us to advertise our core sessions through them as well. Yeah. So yeah, for me, you know, these facilitators and the Dad Space, you know, the dadmin, as I like to call them, they're so important. Having that trust there with those guys. I know that they're all there because they believe in what Dad Space is, and that's why they're there volunteering. Do you know what I mean? They love it because they see how it's helped them, and they want to give back. And it's just like, it's such a special thing, you know, like that. And we're a real nice little team, but I need more volunteers. The more we grow into these other locations, the more dads that can come forward and host these sessions for us and help out in any other ways. It's what we need, you know.
So in which case, what comes next for Dad Space? Where are you intending to push this next?
Yeah, so what's next for Dad Space? I mean, you know, ultimately, you probably see on our website, our vision is we want Dad Space to be accessible to all dads in every town and city. Yeah. Short term, we plan to open up in Dartford, probably potentially next month or July, something like June, July. We then want to open in Thanet, so like Ramsgate sort of way, and also looking at Deal and Canterbury. And I think after that, we've probably got a good coverage across the county then. Yeah. I'd say, like, you go right round there, there'll be a session within 20 minutes of wherever you are, you know, sort of to get to a session once a month, you know. And if you want, and that's one thing as well I say is with Dad Space, if you're from Faversham, it doesn't mean you can't go to the Maidstone one. Yeah. You can go to all of them. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, the Faversham one's on your doorstep, but if you want to go to, as it stands at the moment, 6 Dad Space sessions in a month, they're all there for you. Yeah. All at different times. You can go to them like some are in the week. We do some on a Wednesday night, Tuesday night, and we do them on a Saturday morning. So we try and give flexibility there to dads who may not be able to do weekends, but they might be able to do in the week, and vice versa. You know, but yeah, outside of that, once we've sort of conquered Kent, if you like, it's moving on. You know, I want it, like I said, I want it to be across the country. Yeah. It needs to be. It's just there's more dads than, you know, across the country than just Kent. Yeah. You know, so that's what we want. Yeah.
Denver, I have to say, I think the project that you're working on with Dad Space and what you stand for with Dad Space is wonderful. I think, and I think it's truly needed as well. I think you, of all people, I think are perfectly poised for this. I think the way that you speak with such passion and real connection to what it is that you believe in here, I think it's wonderful. And I think,
thank you.
From a personal basis, I hope to see Dad Space within a 5-minute radius of me at any point in time. I think it's wonderful, and I think you and Michael and everyone behind Dad Space should be proud of what it is that you've done. And I say you certainly have my full support on that.
Oh, thank you very much.
So feel free to push and plug where you'd like people to go when it comes to the podcast, when it comes to your website, and take the stage on that. Wherever you want people to go, tell them to go.
Yeah. Oh, what, to our website?
Yeah. So first of all, let's go back into, just quickly. Let's go back into the podcast and what you're wanting to do there, and where that's going to be, so that people can watch that.
Yeah. I think ultimately it would be probably available to get via our website. I'm not sure on that because Michael's the man who would be sort of setting all that up. But it'd probably be available on YouTube.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think YouTube, and obviously via our website there'd be a link to get onto our podcasts and stuff like that. But all of our events as well, they're all on if you go to our calendar on our website, www.dadspace.co.uk, you can book onto any of our events on there. Like I say, they're all free to sign on and come and join us.
I should put that in the description, and I would like you to hold me to my word when I say that once Dad Space is on a podcasting platform, I would like to link it to I should put it on my page so that there's a link there for people to take. And
No, thank you. No, I really appreciate that. Yeah, thank you very much.
But
I'll hold you to it. Yeah.
No, seriously, do, because I think it's absolutely needed, and I think the more that people are aware of industries like this or groups like this, I think the better there is. I don't see any negative at all to this. I think it's only a fruit and blossom.
No, I mean what you're doing here is brilliant. Offering a space here to come and for people to come and talk and
bloke space.
Bloke space, exactly like that. And it's just we've been thinking about the podcasting for a while, but it needs to be the right time.
Yeah.
I'm basically, it's going to be myself and one of my old friends, Mark. I've known each other again since we were 16 at college. He's going to be co-presenting it with me, and we're going to do that together.
That's nice.
I think because we've got a good rapport with each other, and we sort of rub off each other pretty well, and we're just going to throw it out there. Do you know what I mean? I think actually we're meeting a week on Friday. We're going to do a pilot and just sort of have a bit of a chat and stuff like that before we get any guests in, and then hopefully we'll start to get some guests in after that, and just roll with it, and just put it out there. It's spreading, getting the brand out there bigger, and it's a great advertising tool, isn't it? As you know,
absolutely, absolutely. And I think as well, a nice sort of addition that you'll have there is, of course, it's integral to set up the locations, but you're sort of setting up like a worldwide location with a podcast where it's freely accessible there.
Yeah.
And I can testify on my own behalf that the reason why I wanted to start a podcast was a combination of, I genuinely enjoy conversation. I think I rarely feel more fulfilled than conversation. But a big thing for me was the sort of sense of connection that I felt in times of need with my favourite podcasters, where I had someone, Chris Williamson's my favourite example of this, where you feel someone understands. There's someone who gets, there might be a problem that you feel sort of like being a father. You don't consider other people understand, and you put yourself in a space where most, if not all, people understand what's going on there. And I think putting it out as a podcast is a great thing.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to it. Just having conversation and just adding something extra to what we're doing. Now that's what we're trying to do here. Just adding string to the bow, and just seeing how this Dad Space project evolves and adds on things and stuff like that. So it's quite an exciting little project. Yeah.
Good. Yeah. Denver, it's been lovely to meet you.
And
really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.